7 lines from the bottom of page 100. Let's recap a bit. So we're saying that although Hamaisa Hu Ikar, that's something, a theme that we've been discussing the last while, although the main thing is the actual mitzvah, but still the kavana of the mitzvah, when you have kavana, when a person has kavana, and once again, when we say kavana, we're not talking about the kavana that I'm doing a mitzvah, l'shem yichud, or that I'm shaking al lulav to be mekayim the mitzvah lulav. We're also not talking about the kavana of when you're saying Baruch Atah Hashem, thinking the Pirush HaMilos, the meaning of the words. When we're saying your kavana, we mean the kavana as in the intent, the motivation. When you have the love, when you're motivated and driven by Avas Hashem and by Yiras Hashem. So there's a much greater gilui, a much greater revelation of Hashem's ratzon in that mitzvah than if you do that mitzvah in a sterile way without the kavana. So the first thing that the Rebbe has to, so to say, give a disclaimer over here and say is, I don't want you to think that the reason why that your kavana, your love and your fear, why there's a greater gilui of Hashem's ratzon in the mitzvah if and when you have kavana, I don't want you to think that the reason for this is because kavana is intrinsically more valuable than the action itself. And that's why the kavana evokes a greater level of gilui. In English there's a saying, it's the thought that counts. And that's something which we've discussed on many occasions. And this is something which, a real hurdle, which someone who is not acquainted with the Torah perspective and the Torah way of thinking, and when they're first exposed to the Torah way of life, this is one of the things that's the biggest, it's one of the biggest emotional hurdles that have to be overcome. And that is that the emphasis, the thought, it's the thought that counts doesn't work. When you light, if a person Chas v'Shalom lights Shabbos candles 2 minutes after Shkia, after Shabbos started, because they were running late, and to say, well, it's no biggie, it's the thought that counts, and the main thing is the person meant well, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And when it comes to, we're preparing now for Pesach, and we're getting rid of the chametz, and it's not about the thought counting at all. It's about actually the ma'aseh b'poel, it's about the deed being done. And this is something which is very different than the way it is in the world. And this difference between our relationship with Hashem and our interpersonal relationships. Again, as discussed on different occasions. In interpersonal relationships, it's true that it's the thought that counts. And you can give someone a gift, but if you don't have the card, and if you don't, if your feelings and your thoughts aren't in the right place, the person is going to reject the gift. It's not about the deed. The deed expresses the feelings. The main thing in human relationships is the feelings. Is the kavana, is the ava, is the yira, is the love, and is the respect. And all the actions flow from the kavana. But the most important thing is the kavana.
So why you say the ma'aseh is the ikar? They express, that's
the ma'aseh ikar is
what does that mean?
The ma'aseh ikar is not true in human relationships.
But by mitzvahs,
by Hashem. So that's why if I were to turn to a single person and say, I have a shidduch for you, I'll turn to a guy, he's looking for a shidduch. I'll say, I have this perfect shidduch for you. She's a girl and she's going to be the most wonderful wife, and she's going to be at your beck and call, and whatever you need, and she's going to be devoted, and she's going to be faithful, and she's never going to get angry at you, and she's never going to scream at you, and she's never going to nag you. Everything. Perfect wife. There's only one problem. Only one small little thing. Besides the fact she doesn't exist, there's another problem. She doesn't like you. She really doesn't like you. But she has such incredible midas. It's not going to impact her behavior one iota. It's not going to impact her behavior towards you. No, who's in for that shidduch? The main thing is the deed. No, the main thing is not the deed. The main thing is absolutely in a relationship. The main thing is not the deed. The main thing is the feelings. And the deed is supposed to flow from the feelings.
It's a reflection of it.
A manifestation of the feelings.
What mitzvahs is different.
And that's why flowers is very nice, but try buying a dozen flowers and walking over to a random person on the street and handing it over and see what the reaction you're going to get. It's not going to be very nice because it's not the deed. It's not the maisu iker. If it's the maisu iker, if it's the flowers, no, the flowers are only expressing something deeper, our relationship and all the spiritual, emotional stuff. And we'd be much happier with a person who is deficient in the maisa, in the deed, as long as the heart is in the right place. Because the heart is the main thing. So therefore, now that we're saying over here in Tanya, we're saying over here that when a person does a mitzvah with kavana, there's a much greater gilui of Hashem's ratzon in there. So we might think, why is there a greater gilui of Hashem's ratzon in a mitzvah which is done with a proper kavana, with the proper feelings? Because feelings are more valuable than the deed. That's what we might think. Says the Alter Rebbe, no, let's do this inside. Again, 7 lines from the bottom of page 100. It's not that attaching yourself through your thoughts, and trying to connect to Hashem through your intellect, try to connect to Hashem. He mitzad atzma is intrinsically lamaila, superior to, and greater than midveikus kiyum mitzvahs maisis b'payil mamish. It's not greater than the attachment that you have through doing mitzvahs maisis. As will be explained later. There is no, when you're dealing with Hashem, because Hashem is infinite, the notion that my thoughts and my feelings are superior to my actions and to my deeds, and through them I'm going to impress Hashem more through my feelings than through my deeds is ridiculous. To Hashem, it's all equally nothing. Your thoughts are nothing, your feelings are nothing, your deeds are nothing. So in that case, what makes anything important? The only thing that makes anything significant is the fact that it's a mitzvah, that Hashem commanded you to do it, that it's Hashem's ratzon. The only reason why you can connect to Hashem through your feelings and through your kavana is because that too is part of Hashem's ratzon. To connect to Hashem when doing a mitzvah with your mind and with your thoughts, the kavanas mitzvahs, and with your kavana, the mitzvahs maisius, the kavana that you have when you're doing a mitzvah, an action mitzvah, will be kavanas kriyashma utfila, and the kavana that you have when saying kriyashma and davening v'shar brachas. So there's no difference between Hashem, between a deed and between your feelings. In either one of them, the only reason why you're connected to Hashem through them is because that is Hashem's ratzon.
So why you call it the ikar? Why so then they should be equal then? That one without the other shouldn't work.
No, they're not equal
both
because kavana is only Hashem's ratzon if it's a kavana mitzvahs.
So it's like a marriage between the two. You need both.
No, you don't need both. You don't need both. Hashem wants you to do a mitzvah, and better yet if you have kavana when you do the mitzvah. A good mashal I saw this week is that kavana is a zero. I'm sure you heard this analogy in different ways. Kavana is a zero, and a mitzvah is a 1. So kavana by itself, in other words, all the feelings that you have for Hashem, in and of its own, is nothing. But you put a mitzvah before it, then suddenly you put the kavana, it makes it a 10. You have even more kavana, you add another 0, then you have 100, more kavana, but all the kavana in the world are just a bunch of zeros. You have to have the action, you have to have the mitzvah in front of it in order to give it significance, because Hashem's ratzon is to do a mitzvah, and Hashem wants even more that when you do the mitzvah, it should be with your kavana in it, but not kavana by itself, not kavana or feelings by itself. So again, this is something which is a big yesod, a big foundation in Chassidus in general, and in Tanya. We can't reach Hashem on our own. Our actions are insignificant, our thoughts are insignificant, our feelings are insignificant. The only time that anything that we do carries significance to Hashem is when it's a mitzvah, is when it's something which He said is important. I am making it important because I want you to do it. Suddenly becomes important. But if that's the case, then the kavana is not more valuable intrinsically than the action. One second. So if that's the case, let's continue. 3 lines from the bottom, page 100. And the revelation of Hashem's Ratzon, the revelation of Hashem's Ratzon, which is within the kavana of the mitzvah, is much greater, infinitely higher, from the revelation of Hashem's Ratzon, which is revealed in and invested in B'kiyum HaMitzvahs Atzman, in the doing of a mitzvah by itself, B'maisa, U'b'dibur, a mitzvah which is done with deed or in speech, B'li kavana, without kavana, K'goydel mailas eira neshama ala guf. Just like the neshama has so much more energy than the guf, Shu kli u'malbush neshama, the guf is only the vessel for the neshama, it's a garment for the neshama. The same thing is also K'mei mitzvah atzma, the body of the mitzvah, Shu kli u'malbush l'kavanasa, it is a garment and a vessel for the kavana of the mitzvah. So what have we established? It's not, first of all, we have to understand that it's not intrinsic worth. It's not that our feelings intrinsically are more valuable to Hashem than our actions. So why is it that our feelings evoke this great gilui, revelation of Hashem's Ha'ara? Our feelings are feelings of devotion, of love and fear of Hashem, but that's also Hashem's Ratzon. But 1 second, so why is there a greater gilui? Why is there a greater gilui of Hashem's will in the kavana than there is in the mitzvah itself? So what's the Le'en Kates, infinitely greater revelation? So once again, what would you think over here? You would think because Hashem wants the kavana more than He wants the deed, which is why when you do a mitzvah with kavana, there's a greater gili of Hashem's ratzon. The problem with that is that to say that Hashem wants one thing more than another is something which is problematic.
Why is it problematic?
Why is it problematic? Sorry?
The mitzvah is the ikar here.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shakol v'dvarei.
It seems that the mitzvah is the ikar. Kavana is the hidden mitzvah.
But he says the hidden mitzvah brings more light and more light into it.
The order.
Yes, so it could be that the mitzvah, that the kavana could be more chashuv than the mitzvah itself, because it has more energy, has more. Without it, it's very. It puts more light in it. So what makes the mitzvah greater? I mean, the ma'aseh greater than the kavana. It's like having a light bulb that has very little light coming out of it. So what good is the light bulb?
In the human experience, a person wants certain things more than he or she wants other things. Certain things I have a greater ratzon for, and certain things I have a lesser ratzon for. More desire, less desire. More will or less will. What determines whether I want something more or whether I want something less? The value of that item. The value of that item. If that item has an intrinsic value, so the more valuable something is, or the more I need it, the more I'm going to want it. But what if my desire for something is not because that thing has any value or because I have any need for it? Now it's very hard for us to imagine something of that sort. It's very hard for us to imagine something which I want, but it has no value, and I have no need for it, but I want it anyways, which is really the way it is with Hashem. But maybe a little example to give an idea. We like
value to it.
We encounter different people, and certain people we like more, certain people we like less, certain people we want more. Want, I says, and desire their company. Now, if you ask a parent, you have 6 kids, who do you love most? What's the parent going to answer?
Everybody the same.
It's all the same. How's that possible?
The political correct way.
Is that the politically correct way? No. No, I can say that about my kids, and I believe I'm saying that with complete honesty. And by the way, which doesn't mean that I'm blind, and I think they're all equal. I don't think they're all equal. And I definitely like certain things about some of the kids more than I like about others.
You love them
Okay?
equally. You don't like
But I love them equally, right? And I care for them equally. And if you're going to tell me, you have 3 kids, so which one would you mind least to give up for adoption? What do you mean? What do you mean? But how's that possible? How is it possible that you have a bunch of kids and everyone, just like if I ask you about your 5 closest friends, which one do you like most? You'll be able to answer that question, right?
Yeah.
You'll be able to give a pecking order. Why can't you do that for your kids? They're different individuals. They're not the same. They're not twins with the same DNA. You should be able to say, well, this kid, I have more nachas from. This kid, I have less nachas from. This kid gives me high blood pressure.
All is true.
Right? This kid's better looking. This kid's smarter. Like, why is it that we love all our children equally? And what's the answer? Is because if our love for our children was because they gave us nachas, and if our love for our children was because of what they gave us, then taka, it would depend. In other words, if it was due to the value or the benefit that I receive from them, then each one maybe gives me a different value and a different benefit. But my love for my children doesn't start with them, it starts with me. Your love for your friends starts with them. You look at them and you evaluate. Do I like them? Do I not like them? Do I want them? Do they mean anything to me, right? And that's why, depending on that evaluation, is how much you like them. But your children, you never looked at them and said, do I like, do I not like, do I want, do I need? It starts within you. Their value is not because of them, it's because they're your children. It's because of you. It's not an exact mashal, but I want you now to take that and to put that on Hashem with mitzvahs. Hashem, the reason why Hashem wants mitzvahs is not because of their independent value. Hashem decided this is what He wants. And again, something very difficult for us to relate to, this idea of ratzon. To the extent that there are certain mitzvahs that don't even have any reason. Chukim. Don't have a reason. So why are we doing it? Hashem wants them to do it. Why are they important? Because Hashem wants them. But the problem is that when you want something because you want it and not because of a reason outside of you, not because of the value or benefit they give, it's impossible to say that I want one thing more than another. Because one thing more than another is because one thing has more value than the other. But if they're all valueless and their only value is you want, then you want every single one of them as powerful as you are. Your desire for them is as great as you are. And that's what people sometimes don't understand about the mitzvahs. When you tell them there's a mitzvah, it doesn't have a reason, it's a chayk, it's paraduma, it doesn't have a reason. It doesn't have a reason, then why in the world am I doing it? In other words, if there's a reason I'll be seichel, then I'll do it, but if not, and the truth is that if the reason why I'm doing it is because it's al pi seichel, because of an intellectual reason, then the value and the importance of that mitzvah is only as great as the logical reason, intellectual reason. If, however, I'm doing a mitzvah because Hashem wants it, how important is the mitzvah? As important as Hashem is. So it's a much greater mitzvah. The importance is much greater. We're digressing a little. But the point I'm saying is, and that's why when it comes to mitzvahs, every single mitzvah, on the ratzon level, on the purely ratzon level of Hashem, they're all equal. And we've talked about this in the past, and that's why the Medrash tells us that Alti Yeshiv V'Shekel don't sit and don't start weighing the mitzvahs. And Medrash says that the kalos shebekalos should be to you the same thing as chamuras shebechamuras. The lightest mitzvah should be as important as the greatest mitzvah. Why is that? But this is the nekuda, because if you're dealing with the ratzon of Hashem, there is no difference on the ratzon level. So the fact that there's a greater gilui, revelation of Hashem's ratzon in the kavana, is not because Hashem wants the kavana more than He wants the actual mitzvah. Inside. 4 lines from the top. Page Nun Aleph. Va'av shebishteihen, and even though that in both of them, b'mitzvah b'kabanasa, in the mitzvah, in the kavana, melubesh ratzon echad pashut betachlas hapshitus, There is one ratzon, a simple ratzon. The words Pashat B'Tachlis Habshitus means it's not comprised of any reason or any benefit. It's a simple ratzon. Hashem simply wanted, without anything else mixed in. And therefore there can't be a change. And this one I want more, and this one I want less, or it can't be more or less chas v'shalom. And by the way, that's another understanding of why mitzvahs can't change. One of the Yud Gimel Ikrim, right? Mitzvah can't change. Why can't the mitzvah change? What if Hashem? Why? It happens all the time. Today I want one thing, and tomorrow I want something else. So why can't it be that yesterday Hashem wanted one thing, and tomorrow He wants something else? Why is that so antithetical to Yiddishkeit? Because the problem with Hashem changing His mind tomorrow isn't with tomorrow. That means today. That means that today the ratzon isn't absolute either. The ratzon's for a reason. When you change your mind, there's a reason why I wanted this today, and when that reason goes away, so tomorrow I could change my mind, and tomorrow I won't want it. But if there is no reason why you wanted something in the first place, then there's nothing that can change your mind about it. It's something which comes from the essence of who you are. So that's what he's saying, there is no shinui. Hashem's ratzon can't change, v'ribui, it's not more ratzon or less ratzon, chas v'shalom. U'miyuchad b'mhusei v'atzmusei yizbarach. Hashem's ratzon is one with Him, with His essence, b'tachlis hayichud. So just like Hashem is unchangeable, and there is no more or less within Hashem, the same thing is within Hashem's ratzon also, there is no more or less. Afal pikein, nevertheless, ha'are eini shava bebechinas tzimtzum v'yispashtos. Here's the key. Nevertheless, it's not that Hashem wants kavana more than He wants the actual mitzvah. But how much of Hashem's ratzon? It's the same ratzon. Hashem wants a mitzvah, and Hashem wants that there should be kavana in the mitzvah. But how much of this ratzon can be revealed within the act? Within an act which doesn't have a kavana, only a certain amount of kavana of Hashem's ratzon can be revealed. If and when there's kavana, then more of that same ratzon can be revealed. But not that Hashem wants one more than the other. It's a question of how much can be revealed within the act. So when I do a mitzvah, but I have no kavana, I do a mitzvah somewhat mindlessly, and I'm using the word somewhat because if I do it mamish mindlessly, then there's nothing. In other words, I'm doing the mitzvah. I'm aware of the fact that I'm doing the mitzvah, but I didn't put any of my heart and soul into it. There's no palpable ava there and yira there. No, right? So at that point, you have Hashem's ratzon in there. Meaning that someone looks at you and say, well, what is that person doing? What is that person doing? What's he doing? He's doing Hashem's ratzon. He's doing a mitzvah. It's unmistakable. Why is he shaking that lulav? Why is he eating the matzah? Why is he walking around with a feather and a wooden spoon and a candle? Because Hashem wants, right? So
maybe you could say that's the minimal requirement, and the kavanah is a higher requirement.
When the person, however, does the same mitzvah,
but there's a different state.
But does the mitzvah with a chayis, with a islahavos, with a avos Hashem, with a yiras Hashem. It's not that there's more ratzon, that Hashem wants that more. But right now, suddenly this mitzvah became a vehicle for revealing so much more of Hashem's ratzon. That act expresses, because it's a spiritual act now. Even though it's a physical act, it has become a spiritual act. It radiates with this spirituality in it, and Hashem's ratzon is so much more revealed. And Hashem wants not only that His ratzon should be revealed in a small degree. Dir b'tachtoina means He wants that not only to the minimum amount. He wants that every time you do a mitzvah, there should be a great degree of revelation on that, and that requires the feeling that you put into it, and that's what makes it the much greater level of revelation.
When we say bracha, Hashem need our brachot. Doesn't need it, but He give us this bracha to do, this mitzvah to do, for us to get higher, to be more close to Him. That's the essence of all this.
Okay.
You explained the kavanah that something with a whole bread and all that. Two people can light a menorah, do anything. On the outside, it looks exactly the same. One is doing it without kavanah, one's doing it with kavanah.
Right. No.
Right?
That's a
So
good
how is one
example.
revealing more ratzon? If revealing is just to the outside,
It's not.
It's being the
not.
Malcolm is the revelation.
It's the easiest way to say it, because but it's not. In Olam Haza Hagashmi, it's being revealed, whether within yourself, in your own mind, in your own heart. It's not about the other person seeing it.
Between you and God, not you and man.
The whole kavanah is internal. They'll never. You don't have to in Lubavitch. We don't shake or anything like that. It's all internally.
But at the end of the day,
You're not even doing anything. You can't even tell.
I do want to differ slightly. There is a difference. Yes, you have two people, one with kavanah, without kavanah. I'm not talking about doing somersaults and
Jumping like
jumping jacks.
Zero, yeah.
But if a person who doesn't have kavanah, a person does have kavanah, b'derech klal, it's different. It's different. When an act is animated by Ava V'yira,
Yeah.
it's a different act.
different like us. But to say that there's more ratzon,
Yeah.
more revealed, why is it
More about him coming down. This is all dvar.
But it's not
Well, it's not
zero.
only because God wanted to do it. He wants to do the mitzvah. He wants to have kavanah. So it should be equal. Why is it more? What does it mean more ratzon? If you're going to say the guy's jumping, then I understand what is more ratzon. If he's not jumping, then what's the difference?
Can't tell the difference.
Is
Is that how you say it? More ratzon? The more kavanah is more
What's
ratzon.
that? The whole thing that's
It's different. It's different
More
language.
revelation.
More ratzon.
You ever played a game of charades?
What's that?
You know what charades is?
You know?
I'm old fashioned. What are you talking about? I know Monopoly, that's all.
Charades is old fashioned. It's not.
It's definitely not new.
Charades is you have to express an idea by only with hand motions, without talking, without saying anything. So you have two teams. So one person you write an expression or idea or a concept or something on a board, and then you have one person has to try to convey that to another person, or one team that has to convey it to another team without speaking. It's very difficult because the amount that can be conveyed through the physical, it's a very limited medium for something of a higher form. It's like, as we discussed last week, there's doimim tzameach chai medaber. Doimim has a very small amount of energy in it. Chai has more.
Spiritual.
Right? Tzameach chai, spiritual energy in it, yes. The medium doesn't allow for more. An act of a mitzvah doesn't allow for too much revelation. And what you're saying is exactly that. When you have a bunch of people who are doing an act of a mitzvah, it all looks the same because the act doesn't reveal too much. So the way what you're saying is exactly that. Where is there more of the spirituality revealed? The higher you go up. In Dibur, there's more revelation, as we'll see soon. And in Machshava, there's more. And then in the Kavanah, there's more.
It's revealed to who? Not to his neighbor. I can't read your mind if you have kavanah or not. I don't know what you're thinking
it's
of.
revealed as a light in this world, to bring light. Every time you do a mitzvah, you bring light. Every time you learn Torah, you bring light into the world.
What does that mean?
To bring light into the world?
Yeah.
I
don't see it.
It means
He has
that
more
every
kavanah
time-
than I
we
do.
learned-
What
we
kind of
learned
light
this
I
the
see? I
last
don't
few
see any.
Shurim, that every time you lift things up, every time you do a mitzvah, it's connected with the Dvar Gospel. You lift it up. That's bringing light.
Yeah, but he's talking revelation. You bring light. So revealing it to who? How it's being revealed? Because when you're talking about revelation, you say everything everything has star responding. We don't know what the true intent. But with a mitzvah, we don't know the left man the public that the
If you're a
intent of it.
tzaddik,
Yeah.
you'd probably be able to see it point blank.
So when you're saying reveal, what do you mean exactly?
If you're
Reveal
a tzaddik, you'd probably be able to see it. But it's there.
from a tzaddik, I can see the intention of a diamond also, maybe on a rock, but the real.
I want to go back to what we spoke about last week, and maybe it'll shed a little light.
That's what I'm talking about. I need some light.
And it's related to what you're saying over here.
Oh.
Yeah. Mitzvahs is the opposite of everything else in the world. That's what we discussed last week. Last week and 2 weeks ago.
I remember it, sir.
Everything in the world completely
Is concealed.
conceals Hashem.
As a klipa. You
It's a klipa, conceals Hashem.
klipa is no good.
Now, in this world, depending on the type of creation that you're talking about, there is a different amount of Hashem's energy within every different in every creation. You can't compare the amount of energy that exists in a grain of sand to the amount of chayis of Hashem, of God, of divine chayis, which exists in the human being.
It's all
Right?
concealed.
It's obviously it's a much greater. However, in terms of the concealment is absolute, and it covers everything. Mitzvahs, Torah and mitzvahs don't conceal Hashem at all. They're transparent. They're transparent to Hashem. When a person does a mitzvah, the Ratzon Hashem, everything in this world is a product of Hashem's Ratzon, but that's concealed. And in the mitzvahs, the Ratzon Hashem is revealed. Hashem, I want. When you're doing an act of a mitzvah, the Ratzon of Hashem is revealed.
So you're seeing Hashem, essentially. If the Ratzon Hashem are one.
There is no Hester Panim in a mitzvah, yes. And that's why when you're doing a mitzvah, that's the ultimate expression of Achdus Hashem. That was the topic in Tanya from Perek Chav through Perek Chav Dalet. How every mitzvah is the ultimate expression of Hashem's unity, because when you do a mitzvah, you're being subsumed in Hashem's unity because there is no Hester Panim at all. When you're doing a mitzvah, you're being transparent to the Ratzon Elyon. So you're being right now, you are being I don't want to, what's the word?
Conduit?
But a transmitter even. Right? You are right now radiating. Everything else in the world is hiding Hashem, and you're revealing Hashem. But how much of Hashem are you revealing? You're revealing Hashem's Ratzon. But how much? That when you're having a kavanah, when you have Ava and Yira, so right now, Hashem's Ratzon is not only being revealed in the act, which like a charade, an act can reveal very little. Whatever the act can reveal, it reveals Hashem. But a physical act by definition is limited. It's limited. Try revealing a feeling through an action. Then try revealing it through speaking. And then try revealing the feeling through, through hooking up the person to what's going on in your heart, which is, obviously, that's impossible in the physical realm. But these are all deeper. There's so much more energy in these things. So, when we're doing a mitzvah, we're being a vehicle for Hashem. But if the only part of us that's right now invested in this mitzvah is our hands and feet, how much can our hands and feet reveal of the Ratzon HaElyon? How much more can our mouths reveal? How much more can our hearts reveal? How much more can our minds reveal? And again, it's not about revealing to someone else. It's how much is being revealed in this world. Because when you have a kavanah mitzvah, so that mind, your heart and your mind are being transparent to Hashem. And when your heart and mind are being transparent to Hashem, your heart and mind can entertain so much more gilui, so much more revelation than can an act, than can a physical act.
That's, you said a few minutes ago that Hashem wants this, and that's connected to Dir B'Tachtonim as a tale.
Right, and Hashem wants both. It's not that Hashem wants one more than the other, but the fact is that your kavanah is a greater vehicle to be megala, the spiritual, to be megala, the Ratzon. Although your act also reveals it, but in a very, very limited way. And because Hashem wants not only that He should be here in the world, but He wants that it should be a lichtige dira, that it should be illuminated. Where is the illumination? The illumination is in the heart and in the mind, more so than the deed. But again, if there is no deed, there's nothing. You have a bunch of zeros. But once you have the one, all the feelings that go into it keep on adding more and more light and illumination and transparency to a greater degree of Ratzon HaElyon. These are very lofty ideas. I see everyone is you almost smell the rubber burning over here in this room. Everyone's trying to process this in their own way, but
it's abstract. That's all.
It's somewhat abstract, but
abstract.
But
when you're using the word reveal, you're thinking that you see something different
right.
in the action. But it's like mentioned by the other people here, they says you can't tell the difference from what the action is all
Over
the
here we're
same.
talking seeing is feeling. It's not seeing. Seeing is feeling.
Yeah, but you're feeling it. You're the one who's putting the feeling. You're not receiving the feeling. You're putting in the energy into the mitzvah. And where do you get the feeling from it? How do you get that feeling to do the mitzvah? You're giving, not receiving. Maybe you receive also. I don't know.
But you're
Not
going
fine.
down to the
Going back to the example I gave last week, which again, I know that I gave it last week. Let's give it again.
It's
Right?
abstract a little bit. Yeah.
You're drawing down to the other.
Yeah, but
You wake up.
feeling, but you're putting in. You have to invest that feeling into the mitzvah.
You're getting your kid dressed for school. You're a 2-year-old kid. You're getting your kid dressed. Regardless of how you get your kid dressed, the act of dressing your kid expresses your care for your child and your relationship for that child. But if you're in a rush and you're not focused on your love and your care for your child, although the act itself, even though there is no feelings currently going on, the act itself is transparent to it, can you compare that to when you're doing it with a smile and singing a little to your kid while you're doing it? There, the act suddenly has become transparent to so much more love. Now, is there really more love now than there was yesterday? In other words, yesterday you did it without anything. Today you're doing it with everything. Is there really more love today than yesterday? What?
Just the revelation of
The
it.
revelation.
The
It's
revelation.
more revealed. But let me ask you, what if there's no one? Is it about, it's revealed to someone else? No, it's not about revealed to someone else. In this act is revealed the love, even if there's no one else in the room. It's not the point of revealed to someone else. This act right now is revealing the love to a much greater degree than this act. The same act you did yesterday, it didn't reveal the love. Although it did reveal it to a small degree.
Yeah.
Because the act itself is transparent, right? Because most normal people in this world, they don't like to get little kids dressed. It's not on the, my bucket list is I want to get a kid dressed. I hope not, right? So the fact that you're spending time in the morning getting your kid dressed without anything reveals the love of the relationship. But the next day when you do it, all the feelings, how the feeling now is revealing so much more of that love. The same thing is in a mitzvah. The act of a mitzvah reveals Hashem's Ratzon, because what is this mitzvah? I'm doing Hashem's Ratzon. But when there's the feelings are so much of a greater vehicle for the revelation of that Ratzon. So yes, it is an abstract idea, but the relevance to us is very, very clear.
Could you describe that as a hither mitzvah? The amount of revelation, the amount of emotions that you put into it, that you're revealing your love?
I would say you're working a little backwards. It's not that the Hidur mitzvah reveals it. The Hidur mitzvah is a symptom, not a cause.
Now you got me. Now I'm off to it.
Hidur mitzvah, why does a person do Hidur mitzvah?
He has tremendous, he wants to reveal, he has more.
He's feeling love for Hashem, Yiras Hashem, right? So it's a symptom. It's a symptom.
We want to say Hidur mitzvah
It's not that because you do the Hidur mitzvah, that's revealing it. No.
because you said Hashem
You're
wants
saying that
this,
if
there's something
you
in
do
our
it
heart
with
to
much
do
more
it, so
hava, you put more slavis
That we're
into it, so it's more revealing your love.
Yeah, but the Hidur mitzvah doesn't create love. The Hidur mitzvah is a result of the love.
Oh, I see. It's the result of the love.
Yes. So yes, when there's
You don't
Hidur
do the
mitzvah, there's more.
You don't have love?
When there's Hidur mitzvah, there's more revelation, but that's correlation, not causation. In other words, it's correlated with more revelation because the revelation and the Hidur mitzvah both come from the kavana.
Yeah.
The Hidur mitzvah doesn't cause the revelation. It correlates with it, but they're both caused by the same thing, which is the kavana, the ava, and the yira.
This is a related question. So we're talking about mitzvahs and kavanah. Mitzvahs being 613 mitzvahs. You give the example of dressing your kid in the morning. So we know there's all your deeds should be for the sake of heaven and call. So is that considered a mitzvah? Obviously, there's the mitzvahs like the number, and there's categories of those 613, and then what about these kindnesses and things that we do that maybe don't fall into a category? Are those considered mitzvahs?
They have to be attached to any one of the 613 mitzvahs, in some way.
So like dressing your kid in the morning, is that a mitzvah?
Yeah, part of chinuch.
How would you describe that?
It's a different conversation.
Okay.
We'll do the Haggadah, the note over here on the side, page 9 Aleph. As it says in Eitz Chaim, the kavana of the mitzvah and the kavana of learning Torah, he b'madregas oir. That is in the level of oir. The guf mitzvah is the body of the mitzvah. He b'madregas u'bechinas kelim. They are on the level of kelim. Shehem bechinas tzimtzum. They are much more limited. Shaydei tzimtzum ha'oir, through the contraction of the light. Nishavu ha'kelim came about the kelim ki yadu aliyed, came about the vessels ki yadu aliyed, as is known to Kabbalists. So we're not going to go too deeply into this, but suffice it to say that the difference between oir and a keli, between the light and the vessel, in general, the difference between infinity and that which is finite. The oir in general is energy. The energy of Hashem is.
So the Kalim came after the. Afterwards, the Kalim was caused it to be mitzamtzim. Without the Kalim, you don't have no tzimtzum. You have nothing what to put.
Without the vessels, without the Kalim, you have no.
You can't relate to anything. It
has no limitation. The oil is not limited in any way. The energy is not limited in any way. So, the classical example of this is in Atzilus. So you have the light of Hashem, the infinite light of Hashem, the oil itself, and then the oil goes into the keli of Chesed and Gevurah and Tiferes. So suddenly Hashem's energy expresses itself as kindness and as severity and as beauty and all the other different spheres. The mashal that's brought on in the Pardes for this is if you take light and you shine it through a colored lens. So the light on its own has no color, but once it goes through the lens, so suddenly you limit it. Now this light is red. Now this light is green. So the oir light, the energy by definition is limitless, which means it has infinite possibilities. It can be anything. That same energy which goes into Chesed theoretically can go into Gevurah and be Gevurah because it's unlimited. The Kalim is what limits it. So when we're saying that the guf of the mitzvah, the body of the mitzvah is like the Keli, and the Kavana is like the Oyer, so what we're saying ultimately is that there's a certain quality of infinity which the Kavana of the mitzvah has, which the body of the mitzvah doesn't have, and that is in terms of the amount of the Ratzon of Hashem which is revealed through the body of the mitzvah versus the amount of the Hashem's Ratzon which is revealed through the Kavanah of the mitzvah, which is infinitely greater, as mentioned earlier. And now the Alter Rebbe is going to tell us something interesting. It's going to take us down to the Perek. Right, v'nechlekes gamken. In this world, the word v'nechlekes is the first word in the line, but we're not yet doing it inside.
I just lost the place.
We mentioned that in this world, the Helam, the Hester Panim of Hashem is absolute, which means that Hashem isn't revealed within anything. However, that doesn't mean that Hashem's energy is equally present in everything. In fact, you have everything in this world contains a different amount of quality and quantity of divine energy, although there's a klipa that conceals it. In general, however, there are four different categories in the world. There's Doimim, Tzemeach, Chayim, Medaber. Although within every category also, there are large, very large, differences between, you can't compare a little piece of a chveis in the vegetation, you can't compare a piece of grass to a cedar tree, and you can't compare in the animal kingdom, you can't compare a bacteria or a little beetle to a
giraffe.
What?
A giraffe.
Right? Or to a more complicated, complex being. But generally speaking, it's divided into these four. The world is divided into these four creations, divided into these four categories, as we'll learn in Mitzvah Hashem next week And that is because the reason why it's divided into four is because everything comes from the Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's the source of all creation. Yud Kei Vav Kei, so we have, that's why everything is divided into four. In general, that's why everything is divided, almost, so many things divide into four, whether it's the four seasons. We just started spring yesterday, in case you missed out on that.
But why
That development.
Why is God's name is divided into four? When God is an infinite entity.
That's a question you can't ask.
That's mitzamtzing. It's four.
Because
72 letter name also. That's in the
you
tzitz.
suppose,
Also the same thing. That's also tzimtzum.
The tzitz.
we're starting now to learn Pirkei Avos soon.
Yeah.
So there's a Mishnah that says that the Pirkei talks about a bunch of different things that are 10. There's the 10 utterances of the world was created, and the 10 Makkos, the 10 Nisim, and the Mefarshim explain what's the point of pointing out that these are 10. Who cares? And the answer is that 10 is a number which represents perfection for various reasons, mathematically and even geometrically, and therefore the fact that all these things express themselves in tens shows on their perfection. In their particular area, 10 represents a complete number, a perfect number. So in a Sikha, the Rebbe asks, it's very interesting that of all these 10s that are mentioned, there's one very prominent 10 which is absent from the list.
As a Kreichetz HaNefesh.
Asher Kreichetz HaNefesh, you could say that the Mishnah wasn't
Aseret HaDibros.
Aseret HaDibros. So I explained something fascinating. He says, why is it that 10 is perfection? 10 is perfection because the blueprint of this world is Torah. And since the Torah is the Aseret HaDibros encapsulate within themselves the entire Torah. So since that's the source of the world, so everything in the world, when is it perfect? When it reflects its source. But you can't say that the Torah is perfect because it's 10. No, 10 is perfect because the Torah is 10. If there were 11 dibros, then 11 would be the number which is perfection. If there was 9 dibros, 9 would be the number which represents perfection, mathematically, geometrically, and in all other areas. So you can't include Aseret HaDibros in that list because then you're equating them. You're saying they're all perfect because they're 10, and that's not correct. Aseret HaDibros is not perfect because it's 10. 10 is perfect because of the Aseret HaDibros. Same thing over here. You can't ask why Yud Kei Vav Kei is 4. Once we know that the creative energy of Hashem is in 4, now we understand why in the world, why there are 4 seasons and why there are 4 directions and why there are Eish Ruach Mayim Afar and why there's Daimim Tzemeach and Chayim Medaber. And also in Yiddishkeit we have a lot of different 4s, and we're coming up to Yom Tov, which you'd say 4 is a very important theme of the Yom Tov, right? You have
Kosot.
the four koises, and you have the 4 kashas, and you have the 4 sons, of course, right? Although you have 3 matzahs, which is interesting. There was a whole explanation of Kabbalah why it is they have 3 and 4, but 4 in general is a number which is
By the 3 matzot, you break one of them, so it becomes 4.
okay.
Why? Because you break one.
You have to break one for Afikoma.
Afikoma.
So it's become 4
How many
matzot.
pieces you have now? 4 pieces.
You break it into more than one piece.
Anyways, 4 numbers in Yiddishkeit are very important. Numbers in Yiddishkeit. So the number 4 in general represents creation, because of Yud Kei Vav Kei. So in this world, again, we have these 4 different. Now, as we explained, everything in this world comes from Torah. And therefore, just like in this world, you have Daimim Tzemeach Chayim Medaber, and they all represent varying levels of the Gilui of Hashem. In other words, each one of these 4 levels is a different level of how much it's a vehicle for Hashem's energy. The same thing is when it comes in Torah and mitzvahs. There are also these 4 different levels. There's Daimim Tzemeach Chayim Medaber within Torah and mitzvahs also.
How you correlate that?
The lowest level of the Gili of Hashem's Ratzon is in Doimim mitzvahs. A higher level is in Tzemeach mitzvahs. A higher level is in Chai mitzvahs. And a higher level is in Medaber mitzvahs. These 4 levels, as they are in the world, correspond to or to be more accurate, not they correspond to what in the words of Chassidus they would say they're nishtalshul from. Nishtalshul from means they are sourced in, because everything in this world has a source in Torah. The doimim tzmeach chayim medaber in the world are sourced in the doimim tzmeach chayim medaber in our avodas Hashem.
What's the mitzvah for doimim?
Doimim
What mitzvah
is action.
or action?
Action. The guf of a mitzvah, that's doimim. So when a person does a mitzvah in a way of doimim, person does a mitzvah without kavana, I'm not going to say without kavana, because if there's no kavana at all, that wasn't a mitzvah. You had in mind that you're doing a mitzvah. In other words, the very simplest, no ava, no yira. We're talking about
It's all mechanical.
mechanical, but you had the kavanah to do a mitzvah, because if you remember, doimim tzmei chayim medaber, all of them have a neshama. Even the doimim, the lowest level of mitzvah, also has a neshama. The neshama means its spiritual element, which is the very basic kavanah. I'm doing a mitzvah. That's doimim. That reveals Hashem somewhat, to an extent, as we mentioned. Every mitzvah is transparent to the Ratzon Hashem, but that's on the level of doimim.
Kavanah l'davka, you say.
There is no kavanah l'davka. There's nothing. Doimim, the mitzvah. You did the mitzvah, the act of a mitzvah. That also reveals Hashem. Why are you doing the mitzvah? The act bespeaks the Ratzon Hashem, as opposed to everything else in the world which hides Hashem. The act of a mitzvah, even if it has only the minimal level of kavanah, the act of a mitzvah reveals Hashem in the world, as opposed to everything else in the world which hides Hashem. But that's a very minimal revelation.
Somebody gives tzedakah without thinking that they're doing a mitzvah. They're not doing tzedakah?
That's a different question. That's a different question.
No, you probably know. You probably.
We're not saying you're. Oh, you're saying because I said you have to have at least the minimal. Okay, tzedakah might be the exception.
Kibbut avim.
We just had it
but I think every
last
time-
week in Rashi. Brought it down. The end of the parsha.
When he talks about
Right.
kavanah, this all these
That was even
all
more.
this.
That was even drop it.
What?
That was even drop the coin, right?
The question is, does it reveal Hashem in this world? And I don't know. It's a good question.
When he talks about kavanah, it's always kavanah l'davka, not just the kavanah l'davka.
Right.
That's what he means.
Right.
That's what we're talking about the whole time.
Right. Then there is the level of Semeach. Semeach is the mitzvahs which are done with dibur and or machshava. Saying Krishma, learning Torah, etc. When done without kavana, and again without kavana, once again the kavana l'davka, the kavana to connect Hashem with Ava v'yira. That is Semeach. That's a higher level than Daimim. There's no question that speaking is a spiritual act, as mentioned earlier. Which is why when you speak, a human being is called a medaber. Why are we called a medaber? Because we have the unique ability to reveal our ruchnius, our spiritual side, in our words,
So why is it
as opposed to our actions, which don't reveal to the same extent. So a mitzvah which is a mitzvah of speech, or a mitzvah which is a mitzvah of machshava, is a higher level of mitzvah. It reveals more of Hashem.
So why is it on the tzemeach? Should be on the deeper.
So this is Daimim Tzemeach. Why? Because Daimim Tzemeach, the common denominator of Daimim Tzemeach is that they are bodies. Their main feature is not their soul, but their main feature is their body. Think about that for a moment. Main feature, Daimim definitely, you look at Daimim, you don't see a soul. And even a tree, so yeah, it has a soul. But what is the function of its nefesh? What's the function of its nefesh? Is that its body should grow larger. So even the soul that it has is a more bodily type of a soul. Daimim Tzemeach, you look at them, and for the most part, when I ask you about a tree, you say, tell me about this tree, you're not going to tell me about the spiritual personality of the tree. You're going to, or the feelings of the tree, right? You're going to tell me the color and the texture and the different physical properties. As opposed to animals, when you start talking about an animal, usually, yeah, you'll talk also about physical properties, but more so, you'll talk about their spiritual, their soul properties. And a human being is even more so. Even more so. So Daimim Tzemeach are more in the division of body. Chayim Medaber are more in the division of neshama. And that's why when you do a mitzvah In action, it's doimim. When you do a mitzvah which requires speaking or thinking, it is tzemeach. Why is that? Because at the end of the day, the focus here is on the body of the mitzvah, to do the mitzvah. The soul of the mitzvah is the motivation of the mitzvah, the kavanah of the mitzvah, the reason why you're doing the mitzvah. And that is chayin medaber. Chayin medaber, what?
Why you carry?
Getting there.
That's misleading.
We're going to get there.
Highest level.
So chayin medaber.
But you're saying medaber is also is a physical.
Hold it one second. So what's chayin medaber? Chayin medaber is the
Why you
kavanah.
call it
They're both the kavanah. So a mitzvah, any one of the mitzvahs, whether it's a mitzvah of action or a mitzvah of speech, could be on the level of chayin medaber if you have the proper kavanah. In other words, it's not as if there's a mitzvah of thought, there's a mitzvah of action, then there's the next one, the mitzvah of speech, and then there is kavanah. No, the kavanah has to be part of, kavanah itself is nothing, as mentioned many times. If you take the mitzvah which is doimim and sameach and you add to it a kavanah, then that mitzvah becomes either on the level of chai or becomes on the level of medaber. And there are two different levels of kavanah. And that's what Dr. Rebbe is going to say. Level one of kavanah, the lower level of kavanah, is that you're doing this mitzvah motivated by a love and fear of Hashem, but that love and fear of Hashem is what's called the ava hativis, the natural love that one has for Hashem. And that's what defines an animal. An animal is imprisoned within its nature. It is limited by its nature. It can't go beyond its nature. So if a yid evokes his natural love for Hashem to serve Hashem, if that's his kavanah, then the mitzvah is on the level of chai.
Yeah.
If, however, a person develops a avavayira sichlis with seichel, in other words, meditates upon the greatness of Hashem and develops a love and a fear for Hashem, this is on the level of medaber, because medaber is about seichel and bechira. So that's what we're going to, obviously, we're going to continue on that Mir Hashem after Pesach, but we're going to say that just like we're talking the whole time, how there are different levels of the Gili of Hashem's Ratzon, and how the Kavanah, with the dimension which is added through Kavanah's HaMitzvah, and we'll see there are actually 4 different levels. There's 2 mitzvahs, there are 2 levels in the guf of a mitzvah, and then if and when you add the neshama, then you elevate the mitzvah to one of 2 levels of either chai or medaber, as we will in Mir Hashem talk at length next time we come together. Have a good Shabbos, everyone.
Yom Tov.
And have a good Yom Tov and a Kashan Freilich and Pesach, and we should all feel a chedus, and experience a geula from Mitzrayim and a geula from all different issues that we may have.
Maybe